I showed up to my husband's lavish company party I paid for, only to see him proposing. My name is Sarah, and I am 34 years old. I spent 8 years building a life with a man I thought was my forever. I gave him my trust, my savings, and my whole heart. That night I stood in a ballroom wearing a $2,000 dress surrounded by flowers I had chosen, and food I had paid for. I thought I was walking into a celebration. Instead, I walked into the worst moment of my life. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you believe in love and loyalty, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now let me tell you how a single moment can change everything you thought you knew about your own life. I need to take you back to the beginning so you can understand how I ended up in that ballroom watching my world crumble in front of 200 strangers. I met Derek 10 years ago at a small coffee shop in downtown Boston. It was one of those rainy Tuesday afternoons when everything feels slow and quiet. I was sitting by the window reviewing some financial reports for work when he walked in. He was soaking wet, his jacket dripping onto the floor, and he had this embarrassed smile on his face that made me look up from my papers. He ordered a black coffee and then turned around looking for a seat. Every table was taken except for the empty chair across from me. He asked if he could sit down, and something about his voice made me say yes. We started talking, and 3 hours disappeared like minutes. Derek told me he had just been let go from his first real job out of college. He had been working in sales for a tech company, and the whole department got cut during a restructuring. He was 26 years old, unemployed, and completely lost about what to do next. But there was something in the way he talked about his dreams that pulled me in. He wanted to do something meaningful. He wanted to build something. He talked about marketing and branding, and how he believed he could help companies tell their stories in ways that mattered. I was 24 at the time, already working as a junior financial analyst at an investment firm. I had always been the responsible one, the one with a plan, the one who saved money and followed the rules. Derek was different. He was spontaneous and optimistic, and full of ideas that seemed both impossible and exciting. I think I fell in love with his potential before I fell in love with him. We started dating, and those first 2 years were magical, in the way that young love always is. We went to concerts and tried new restaurants, and stayed up late talking about the future. Derek bounced between jobs during that time. He tried selling insurance for a while, then worked at a real estate agency, then did some freelance marketing work. Nothing ever stuck, but he always had an explanation and a new plan. I told myself that he just had not found his place yet. I believed in him. I believed that one day everything would click, and he would become the successful man I saw inside him. When Derek proposed to me, we were living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment that I was paying for. He got down on one knee in our cramped living room, holding a ring that I later found out he had borrowed money from his brother to buy. It was not a big diamond or a fancy setting, but I did not care. I said yes because I loved him, and because I truly believed that we were going to build an amazing life together. The first few years of our marriage followed a pattern. I worked long hours climbing the ladder at my company. I went from junior analyst to senior analyst. I put in 60-hour weeks, sometimes more. I took on extra projects and traveled for work when needed. My salary grew, and with it so did our lifestyle. Derek continued to struggle professionally. He tried a few more sales jobs, none of which lasted more than a year. He talked about starting his own business, but never followed through. Eventually, he landed a position as a marketing coordinator at a small tech startup. It was not a high-paying job, but he seemed happy, and I was relieved that he finally had something stable. I became the primary earner in our household, and honestly, I did not mind. I loved Derek, and I believed that marriage meant supporting each other through everything. When he wanted a nicer car, I bought him a BMW. When he complained about his wardrobe, I took him shopping for designer clothes. When he decided he needed an MBA to advance his career, I paid for his evening classes. We bought a townhouse in Back Bay, a beautiful 3-story home that cost nearly $1 million. I made the down payment and covered the mortgage every month. Derek contributed what he could, but it was never more than a fraction of our expenses. I told myself it did not matter because we were a team, but looking back I can see the cracks that I chose to ignore at the time. About 2 years before that terrible night, Derek started to change. It was subtle at first. He began going to the gym every single day, sometimes twice a day. He became obsessed with his appearance, buying new clothes constantly and spending more time in front of the mirror than I'd ever seen. I thought maybe he was just going through a phase or trying to feel better about himself. Then he started mentioning a new co-worker. Her name was Madison, and she was 28 years old, the new event coordinator at his company. Derek talked about her all the time. Madison had such great ideas. Madison was so creative. Madison really understood marketing in a way that nobody else at the company did. I did not feel jealous. I trusted my husband completely. In fact, I was happy that he had found a friend at work, someone who shared his professional interests. When he started working late more often, I assumed it was because they were collaborating on projects. When he went on more business trips, I told myself it was a sign that his career was finally taking off. My best friend Joanna tried to warn me once. We were having brunch, and she asked me if I was sure everything was okay with Derek. She said he seemed different lately, more distant, more secretive. She pointed out that he never seemed to mention Madison anymore, which was strange after talking about her constantly for months. I defended him. I told Joanna she was being paranoid. I said Derek would never do anything to hurt me, that we had been together for almost a decade, and that I knew him better than anyone. Joanna just looked at me with sad eyes and said she hoped I was right. I wish I had listened to her, and I wish I had paid attention to the signs that were right in front of my face. But love can make you blind in the cruelest ways. 3 months before the party, Derek came home one evening with a worried expression on his face. He sat down across from me at our kitchen table and told me that his company was in trouble. Their main investor had pulled out, and they were struggling to stay afloat. The CEO had decided that the only way to save the company was to throw an impressive party to attract new investors. Derek explained that he had been tasked with organizing this event. It was the biggest responsibility he had ever been given, and he believed it could be his ticket to a major promotion. If he pulled this off, he said he could become the head of the entire marketing department. His salary would triple. He would finally be able to contribute equally to our household. Then came the part I was not expecting. Derek said the company had no budget for the party. They were putting all their remaining resources into the product development, hoping to impress investors with their technology, rather than spending money on an event. But Derek believed the party was essential. He thought they needed to wine and dine these potential investors to create an atmosphere of success and luxury. He asked me if I could help fund the party. He said he hated to ask, but this was his big chance. He promised he would pay me back once he got his promotion and raise. He looked at me with those eyes that I had loved for 10 years, and I saw the hope and desperation in them. I hesitated. The amount he was asking for was not small. $50,000 would cover the venue catering decorations, entertainment, and all the other details of a truly impressive corporate event. It was money I had been saving for something else entirely. For years, Derek and I had talked about starting a family. We had agreed to wait until the timing was right, until we were both stable in our careers and ready to take on the responsibility of children. I had quietly been building a savings fund for when that day came. $50,000 was sitting in an account that I thought of as our future baby fund. Derek did not know about this account. I had started it on my own, adding to it little by little over the years. It was my way of preparing for the family I desperately wanted, the family that Derek kept saying we would have someday, just not yet. But as I looked at my husband that night, I made a decision that I would later regret with every fiber of my being. I told him yes. I said I would fund the party because I believed in him and because I wanted to support his dreams. I thought that once he got this promotion, everything would change. We would finally be equals in our marriage. We could finally start our family. I withdrew the money and began planning the event myself. Derek was too busy with work, he said, so I took on the responsibility of making his vision come true. I booked the Harbor Hotel, one of the most prestigious venues in Boston. I hired a top-tier catering company to provide gourmet food and premium open bar service. I arranged for a live jazz band, the kind that played at exclusive events for wealthy clients. I ordered thousands of dollars worth of fresh flowers, choosing elegant arrangements that would transform the ballroom into something magical. Every detail was perfect. Every element was carefully chosen. I wanted Derek to be proud. I wanted his colleagues and his bosses and these potential investors to see what an amazing event he had put together. I did not care that it was really me doing the work. I just wanted him to succeed. As the weeks went by and the party date approached, Derek became increasingly unavailable. He was always at work late, always in meetings, always too busy to spend time with me. When I offered to help with the event preparations, he brushed me off. He said he wanted to handle it himself, that this was his project. and he needed to prove he could do it on his own. I noticed that he stopped mentioning Madison entirely. It was as if she had disappeared from his life, which struck me as odd since she was the event coordinator and should have been heavily involved in planning the party. When I asked about her once, Derek changed the subject so quickly that it made me pause. One evening, about 2 weeks before the party, I called Derek while he was supposedly working late. I could hear voices in the background, including what sounded like a woman laughing. When I asked who was there, he said it was just the team brainstorming ideas. He sounded distracted and eager to get off the phone. After we hung up, I sat in our empty living room, feeling something I could not quite name. It was not jealousy exactly. It was more like a quiet uneasiness, a sense that something was not quite right. Joanna called me the next day to check in. She asked how the party planning was going, and I told her everything was on track. Then she asked how Derek was treating me, and I did not know how to answer. I said he was busy and stressed, but that everything was fine. She was quiet for a long moment before telling me to be careful. She said she had a bad feeling about all of this. I dismissed her concerns again. I told myself that Joanna was overprotective and suspicious by nature. Derek was my husband. He loved me. Everything was going to be fine. I had no idea how wrong I was. The morning of the party, I woke up to an empty bed. Derek had left a note on his pillow saying he needed to get to the venue early to oversee the setup. He had written a little heart at the bottom of the note, and I smiled when I saw it. I thought it was sweet that he still left me love notes after all these years. I took my time getting ready. I had scheduled an appointment at my favorite salon where I got my hair styled in elegant waves and my makeup done by a professional artist. I wanted to look perfect for Derek. I wanted him to see me walk into that ballroom and feel proud to have me by his side. The dress I had chosen was stunning. It was a navy blue gown that hugged my figure in all the right places, with a subtle shimmer that caught the light when I moved. I paired it with a pearl necklace that had belonged to my mother before she passed away. Wearing her pearls made me feel like she was with me somehow, watching over me on this special night. I spent the afternoon reviewing some work documents, trying to distract myself from the nervous excitement building in my chest. The party was scheduled to begin at 8 o'clock, and I planned to arrive right on time so I could make an entrance with Derek. At around 3 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text message from a number I did not recognize. I almost ignored it, assuming it was spam, but something made me open it anyway. The message was short and cryptic. It said, "You should come to the party early tonight. There is something you need to see." I stared at the words for a long time, trying to make sense of them. Who was this person? What did they mean? Was this some kind of prank or mistake? I tried calling the number, but no one answered. I sent a text back asking who this was, but I never got a response. Part of me wanted to ignore the whole thing and continue with my plan. But another part of me, a part that I had been suppressing for months, felt a flicker of fear. I decided to arrive an hour early. I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe someone at the company wanted to surprise me with a thank you speech for funding the party. Maybe Derek had planned some kind of gesture to show his appreciation. The thought made me smile, and I pushed away the anxiety that was creeping into my chest. At 6:30, I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. I looked beautiful. I looked confident. I looked like a woman who had everything she could ever want. I grabbed my clutch and my car keys and headed out the door. The drive to Harbor Hotel took about 20 minutes. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and I remember thinking how romantic it looked. I imagined Derek seeing that same sunset and thinking of me. I imagined us dancing together later that night, celebrating his success and our future. When I arrived at the hotel, the valet took my car, and I walked through the grand entrance with my head held high. The lobby was elegant, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, exactly the kind of place I had envisioned for this event. I could hear music and voices coming from the ballroom down the hall. A hotel staff member recognized me immediately. She had been my main contact during the planning process, and she knew I was the one who had signed all the checks. She smiled warmly and asked if I wanted her to escort me to the ballroom. I told her I wanted to surprise my husband, so I asked if there was a side entrance I could use. She nodded and led me through a service corridor to a door that opened near the back of the ballroom. She told me I could slip in unnoticed and find Derek whenever I was ready. I thanked her and took a deep breath. My heart was beating fast, but it was excitement, not fear. At least, that is what I told myself. I opened the door and stepped into the ballroom, it was even more beautiful than I had imagined. The flowers were perfect, the lighting was soft and romantic, and the band was playing a gentle melody that filled the room with warmth. There were already many people there, maybe 100 or more, all dressed in formal attire, and chatting with glasses of champagne in their hands. I stayed near the back, partially hidden behind a large pillar, and scanned the crowd for Derek. It took me a moment to find him, and when I did, my breath caught in my throat. He was standing on the stage at the front of the ballroom, holding a microphone. And standing next to him was a young woman in a white dress. She had long blonde hair and a nervous smile, and she was looking at Derek like he was the center of her universe. I recognized her immediately. It was Madison. I stood frozen behind that pillar, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to process what my eyes were seeing. The room around me blurred at the edges as my entire focus narrowed to the two figures standing on that stage. Derek was speaking into the microphone, his voice carrying across the ballroom with a confidence I had never heard before. He was talking about love and fate and finding the one person who truly understands you. He was talking about how sometimes you spend years searching for happiness before you realize it has been standing right in front of you all along. I thought for one desperate moment that he was talking about me. I thought maybe he was going to call me up to the stage and thank me for everything I had done. I thought maybe the woman beside him was just there to help with some kind of presentation. But then he turned to face Madison directly, and the look in his eyes shattered every illusion I had been clinging to. He said her name like it was a prayer. He said that she had changed his life, that she had shown him what real love could be, that he had never felt this way about anyone before. He said that the past 2 years with her had been the happiest of his entire existence. 2 years. The words hit me like a physical blow. 2 years meant this had been going on since before they started planning this party. 2 years meant every late night at work, every business trip, every moment he had been too busy for me. 2 years of lies. I watched as Derek reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I watched as he lowered himself onto one knee in front of Madison, in front of 200 people, in front of everyone he worked with, and all the investors they were trying to impress. I watched as he opened the box to reveal a diamond ring that sparkled under the ballroom lights. Madison, will you marry me? The words echoed through the room, through my head, through every cell of my body. The woman I had trusted my husband around, the woman he had sworn was just a colleague, the woman whose name he had stopped mentioning because he had something to hide. She was wearing white like a bride at her own engagement party, a party that I had paid for, a party that was supposed to be for business, but was really Derek staging his proposal to his mistress. Madison started crying and nodding, and the word yes left her lips just as the applause erupted throughout the ballroom. People stood up from their seats, clapping and cheering, and I realized with horror that many of them already knew. This was not a surprise to the guests. This was planned. This was expected. The only one who did not know was me. Derek slid the ring onto Madison's finger and they kissed while the crowd celebrated around them. The CEO of Derek's company climbed onto the stage to congratulate them, shaking Derek's hand and hugging Madison like they were all one big happy family. Someone grabbed the microphone and said something about how wonderful it was that Derek had finally proposed after 2 years of being together. The words confirmed everything. This affair had been going on right under my nose while I worked 60 hours a week to pay for Derek's lifestyle. While I saved money for a baby we were never going to have. While I planned my husband's future with a woman who was not me. I do not remember deciding to move. One moment I was standing behind that pillar, and the next moment I was walking through the crowd toward the stage. People parted in front of me, perhaps confused by the expression on my face or the determined way I was moving. Maybe they could see that something was very wrong. Derek noticed me when I was about 10 feet from the stage. His face went pale, the color draining away in an instant. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Madison followed his gaze and looked at me with confusion, clearly having no idea who I was. I stopped right in front of them and looked up at my husband, the man I had loved and supported and sacrificed for during 8 years of marriage. The man who had just proposed to another woman using the party I had funded with my own savings. My voice came out steady, much steadier than I felt inside. "Who is this?" Madison asked, her voice uncertain. She was looking between me and Derek, waiting for an explanation. I answered before Derek could find his voice. I am his wife, and I paid for everything you see in this room. The silence that followed was absolute. The music stopped. The chatter died. 200 people stood frozen, staring at the three of us like we were actors in a play they had not anticipated. Derek finally found his voice, but the words that came out were pathetic. Sarah, he stammered, it is not what it looks like. We have been having problems for a long time. I was going to tell you. I let out a laugh that sounded foreign to my own ears. Problems. What problems? The problem where I pay all our bills while you spend my money on your mistress. The problem where I work 60 hours a week so you can buy designer clothes and drive a BMW. Tell me, Derek, what problems are you referring to? Madison was crying now, but they were not tears of joy anymore. She pulled away from Derek and stared at him with growing horror. You told me you were divorced, she said, her voice cracking. You told me your ex-wife was out of the picture. Derek tried to reach for her, but she stepped back. I told myself to feel sorry for her because she was a victim, too deceived by the same man who had deceived me. But in that moment, all I could feel was the shattering of everything I had believed to be true. The CEO of the company was backing away slowly, clearly wanting no part of this scandal. Other guests were whispering to each other, their phones coming out of pockets and purses. I knew this moment would be all over social media within the hour. Derek's reputation was crumbling in real time. You were never there for me. Derek suddenly said, his tone shifting to defensive. You were always working, always busy. You never had time for us. You pushed me away, Sarah. You made me find comfort somewhere else. The audacity of his words took my breath away. He was standing on a stage where he had just proposed to another woman at a party I had paid $50,000 for, and he was trying to blame me for his affair. I found comfort somewhere else, I repeated, my voice rising. I paid for your car. I paid for your clothes. I paid for your education. I paid for the house you live in. I planned this entire party for you. Everything you have. Derek, everything came from me. And this is how you repay me. The crowd was murmuring now, sympathies clearly shifting in my direction. I could see people looking at Derek with disgust, their admiration from moments ago transforming into contempt. Madison had removed the ring from her finger. She threw it at Derek, and it bounced off his chest before falling to the stage floor. You are a liar, she said through her tears. You used me. You used both of us. She turned and ran out of the ballroom, and I watched her go without any desire to follow. For a moment I stood there absorbing the weight of what had just happened. My marriage was over. My trust was shattered. My future, as I had imagined it, no longer existed. But somewhere beneath the pain, I felt something else rising up. It was not despair. It was determination. I thought about all the ways I could handle this situation. I could break down and cry in front of all these people. I could scream at Derek until my voice gave out. I could run away and hide from the humiliation of being so publicly betrayed. But none of those options felt right. Instead, I walked toward the stage with a calm that surprised even me. The MC was standing nearby, frozen, with the microphone in his hand, unsure what to do. I held out my hand and asked for the microphone. He gave it to me without question. I climbed the 2 steps onto the stage and stood where Derek had been standing just minutes ago. He tried to approach me, but I held up one hand and he stopped. The entire ballroom was watching me, waiting to see what I would do next. I brought the microphone to my lips and began to speak. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah, and as I just mentioned, I am Derek's wife. We have been married for 8 years, and until about 5 minutes ago, I had no idea that my husband was having an affair. I let those words sink in before continuing. I want you all to know something about this beautiful party you are enjoying tonight. The venue, the food, the flowers, the band, everything. It was paid for with my money. $50,000 from my personal savings. Money I had been setting aside so that Derek and I could start a family someday. The gasps from the crowd were audible. I could see shock and pity on the faces around me, and I used that energy to keep going. Derek asked me to fund this party because he said his company could not afford it. He told me it was his big chance to prove himself, to get a promotion, to finally become the man I always believed he could be. And I said yes, because I loved him and trusted him. I turned to look directly at Derek. His face was a mask of shame and anger, but I no longer cared what he was feeling. So let me make sure I understand this correctly, I said. You used my money to throw an engagement party for you and your girlfriend. You brought me here to watch you propose to someone else. And now you are trying to blame me for your choices. Derek started to speak, but I cut him off. No, you do not get to talk anymore. For 8 years I have listened to your excuses, and your promises, and your dreams that never came true. For 8 years I have carried this family on my shoulders, while you did whatever you wanted. Tonight, I finally see the truth. I pulled out my phone and opened my email, where I had saved all the receipts from planning this event. I have every invoice right here, I announced to the crowd. The hotel booking the catering contract, the entertainment fees, all signed by me, all paid for by me. If anyone would like to verify that I am telling the truth, I am happy to share this documentation. The CEO of Derek's company was standing near the edge of the stage, looking like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. I turned my attention to him, and to the leadership of this company, I continued. I hope you understand the kind of person you have working for you. A man who lies to his wife, lies to his mistress, and apparently lies to his employer about how their events are being funded. I handed the microphone back to the MC and stepped off the stage. The crowd parted for me as I walked toward the exit, and I could hear the whispers following in my wake. But I did not care anymore. I had said what I needed to say. Before I reached the door, someone touched my arm. I turned to find a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a sympathetic expression. She introduced herself as Patricia, the head of accounting at Derek's company. I am the one who sent you that text message, she said quietly. I could not stand by and watch him do this to you. I knew about the affair, but I had no proof. I thought if you came here early, you could see for yourself. I looked at this stranger who had done more for me in one text message than my husband had done in years of marriage. Thank you, I said, and I meant it with every part of my broken heart. You gave me the truth. Patricia hugged me briefly, and then I continued toward the exit. As I pushed through the doors and stepped into the cool night air, I heard Derek calling my name from somewhere behind me. I did not turn around. I walked to the valet stand and handed over my ticket. While I waited for my car, I pulled out my phone and sent 2 text messages. The first was to Joanna. You were right about everything. I need a divorce lawyer. The second was to a locksmith. Can you change my locks tonight? Emergency situation. By the time I drove away from Harbor Hotel, I had already begun planning my next steps. Derek would not see the inside of my house again. Everything I had built would stay with me, and he would learn that betraying someone who gave him everything was the biggest mistake of his life. The night of the party ended, but my battle was just beginning. I drove home with a strange sense of clarity, my mind already racing through everything I needed to do. Grief would come later. Right now, I needed to protect myself. Joanna met me at my house within an hour. She had already contacted a lawyer named Amanda, a woman with a reputation for being ruthless in divorce proceedings. Amanda agreed to meet with me first thing in the morning, even though it was a Saturday. Joanna stayed with me while the locksmith changed every lock on the doors. At around midnight, Derek started calling my phone. I let it ring. He sent text after text, each one more desperate than the last. He said he was sorry. He said he could explain. He said Madison meant nothing to him, which was ironic, given that he had just proposed to her in front of 200 people. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. The next morning, I woke up early and packed all of Derek's belongings into boxes. His clothes, his shoes, his collection of expensive watches that I had purchased for him over the years. I carried each box out to the front porch and left them there in a neat pile. Amanda arrived at 9 o'clock, and we sat at my kitchen table going over the details of my marriage. She asked about our finances, our property, our debts. When I told her that I was the primary earner and that I had paid for virtually everything we owned, she smiled in a way that told me I had a strong case. Then she dropped a bomb that I had not expected. She asked if I knew about Derek's credit card debt. I said I did not, that all of our finances were supposed to be combined, that I managed the household budget and paid all the bills. Amanda pulled up some information she had gathered and showed me statements from 3 credit cards I had never seen before. Derek had been hiding over $30,000 in personal debt. The charges were for restaurants, hotels, jewelry, and clothing. Dates and locations that corresponded perfectly with the trips he had supposedly taken for work. He had been financing his affair with money he could not afford accumulating debt that would have eventually become my problem if we had stayed married. The divorce process took 6 months. Derek fought it every step of the way. He demanded half of everything, claiming that our marriage was a partnership and that he was entitled to share in my success. His lawyer argued that he had sacrificed his career to support my ambitions, which was laughable, given that I was the one who had worked constantly while he did whatever he wanted. Amanda dismantled every argument Derek made. She documented my income, my contributions, my payments for the house and the cars and the education. She showed the court that Derek had contributed virtually nothing to our marriage financially and had actually accumulated secret debt. She presented evidence of his affair, including statements from colleagues who confirmed it had been going on for 2 years. In the end, the judge sided with me. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and everything I had earned. Derek was ordered to assume responsibility for his credit card debt and was actually required to repay me $15,000 as partial restitution for the party funds, which the court agreed had been obtained through deception. The aftermath for Derek was swift and brutal. His company fired him within a week of the party scandal. Apparently, using his wife's money to throw an engagement party for his mistress was not the kind of behavior they wanted associated with their brand. The potential investors they had been courting pulled out completely embarrassed to have been at such a disastrous event. Madison wanted nothing to do with Derek after learning the truth. She sent me a message about a month after the party apologizing for her role in everything. She said Derek had told her I was his ex-wife, that we had been separated for years, that he was just waiting for the paperwork to finalize. She had believed him because she wanted to believe him, and she felt horrible about being part of something that caused me so much pain. I surprised myself by responding to her message. I told her that I did not blame her, that we had both been victims of the same liar. I said I hoped she would find someone who deserved her trust someday. We were never going to be friends, but I let go of any anger I had toward her. She was not my enemy. Derek was. Last I heard, Derek had moved back in with his mother in a small town outside of Boston. He was working a retail job and living in his childhood bedroom at 37 years old. Everything he had built with my money, everything he had taken for granted was gone. And me, I was finally free. The months following the divorce were not easy. I would be lying if I said I bounced back immediately, that I was strong and resilient from day one. The truth is, I spent a lot of nights crying in my empty house, questioning everything about myself and my choices. I wondered how I had been so blind. I replayed every moment of our marriage, looking for the signs I had missed. I blamed myself for working too much, for not paying enough attention, for trusting someone who did not deserve my trust. The guilt and shame were almost as heavy as the betrayal itself. Joanna was my rock during this time. She came over almost every day, sometimes just to sit with me in silence while I processed my pain. She never said "I told you so," even though she had every right to. Instead, she reminded me that I was not responsible for Derek's choices, that his affair was his failure, not mine. I started seeing a therapist named Dr. Helen about 2 months after the divorce was finalized. She specialized in helping people recover from infidelity, and she understood the unique kind of trauma that comes from being betrayed by someone you loved. She helped me untangle the guilt I was carrying and recognize that I had done nothing wrong. Dr. Helen taught me that people like Derek are skilled manipulators. They choose partners who are caring and generous and trusting because those are the easiest people to take advantage of. My kindness was not a weakness, but Derek had exploited it like one. Learning to see my compassion as a strength rather than a flaw was one of the most important parts of my healing. Slowly, I started to rebuild my life. I threw myself into my work, and my efforts paid off when I was promoted to Director of Financial Analysis. The raise that came with the position was significant, but more important was the recognition of my abilities. I had spent so many years lifting up Derek that I had forgotten how capable I was on my own. I also started doing things that brought me joy, things I had neglected during my marriage. I traveled to places I had always dreamed of visiting. I spent 2 weeks in Italy, wandering through Rome and Florence and Venice, eating pasta and drinking wine, and falling in love with the world again. I went to Japan and walked through cherry blossom gardens that took my breath away. I discovered that I was excellent company for myself. I redecorated my house completely. Every room had been designed around Derek's preferences, and I had never realized how little of myself was reflected in my own home. I painted walls, bought new furniture, hung art that spoke to my soul. The space became truly mine for the first time. I reconnected with friends I had drifted away from during my marriage. Derek had always been uncomfortable around some of my closest people, and I had gradually stopped making time for them without even realizing it. Reaching out to them again felt like coming home, and I started writing. Every morning, I would sit down with my coffee and journal about 3 things I was grateful for. It seemed like a small practice, but it shifted something inside me. It trained my brain to look for the good things in my life instead of dwelling on the bad. Over time, my journals filled up with evidence of all the beauty that still existed in my world. A little over a year after that terrible night at Harbor Hotel, I sat on my porch on a warm summer evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that reminded me of a new beginning. I had a glass of wine in my hand and nowhere to be, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt completely at peace. I thought about the woman I had been before all of this happened. She had been kind and loyal and hardworking, but she had also been lost. She had built her entire identity around being someone's wife, around supporting someone else's dreams, around sacrificing herself for a love that was never real. That woman had needed to break in order to become who she was meant to be. I am not angry at Derek anymore. I realized somewhere along the way that holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. He is living the consequences of his choices, and I do not need to add my resentment to his burden. Letting go of that anger freed up so much space in my heart for other things. I believe in love again, but it is a different kind of belief now. I understand that love should lift you up, not weigh you down. It should inspire you to be your best self, not ask you to shrink so someone else can feel bigger. The right person will never make you choose between loving them and loving yourself. If you are watching this, and you have been through something similar, I want you to know that you are not alone. Betrayal is one of the deepest wounds a human being can experience, and healing from it takes time. There will be days when you feel like you will never be okay again, but those days will become fewer and farther between, and eventually you will wake up one morning and realize that you have built a life that is entirely your own. The ending of my marriage was the most painful thing I have ever experienced, but looking back now, I can see that it was also a gift. It forced me to rediscover who I am outside of a relationship. It taught me that I am stronger than I ever knew. It showed me that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can become the foundation for our greatest transformations. So if you are standing in your own ruins right now, do not despair. Those broken pieces can be rebuilt into something more beautiful than what came before, and you deserve every bit of the happiness that is waiting for you on the other side. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been through a betrayal that changed your life? How did you find your way back to yourself? Please share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear these words. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue this journey together. And remember, no matter what you are going through, you have the strength to survive it and the power to create something beautiful from the pain. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you healing, I wish you peace, and most of all, I wish you the courage to choose yourself. Until next time, take care of your beautiful heart.